The invisible shift inside American banks. Nothing announced it. No vote, no crisis, no sudden reform. Yet over time, something fundamental changed inside American banks. Quietly, steadily, and largely unnoticed. To understand this shift, we need to look beyond balance sheets and regulations and focus on behavior. Banks did not suddenly become different institutions. They slowly became different organisms. Decision-making moved. Priorities adjusted. Incentives evolved. What banks were designed to do began diverging from how they actually operated. This change did not come from recklessness. It came from adaptation. As markets accelerated and oversight standardized, banks optimized for speed, scale, and coordination. Processes that once relied on judgment became systematized. Authority migrated from people to frameworks, from discretion to automation. Over time, internal culture adjusted. Success was measured by efficiency, throughput, and alignment with external expectations. Risk was managed centrally rather than locally. Decisions were guided by aggregated data rather than situational context. The system became smoother, but less sensitive. This internal shift altered how stress was perceived. Early warnings felt abstract. Local signals were overridden by system-wide metrics. What mattered most was consistency across the institution. Deviation felt like error. Alignment felt like control. Markets rewarded this transformation. Predictability attracted capital. Scale signaled strength. Institutions that moved in step with the system were seen as safer than those that acted independently. Stability became associated with coordination rather than diversity of behavior. Regulators reinforced the pattern unintentionally. Oversight favored standardized processes. Reporting rewarded uniformity. Banks learned that behaving like peers reduced scrutiny. Difference attracted questions. Similarity brought comfort. This was the invisible shift. Banks did not become weaker, but they became more alike. Risk did not increase in size, but it increased in synchronization. The system gained efficiency while quietly reducing its capacity to respond differently under stress. Nothing looked wrong. Everything looked modern. But beneath the surface, American banking was changing shape, not outwardly, but inwardly. And once that kind of shift takes hold, its consequences only appear when conditions force the system to react. As this internal shift deepened, its effects became harder to isolate. Banks began responding less to local conditions and more to system-wide signals. Decisions were filtered through centralized frameworks designed to ensure consistency. What worked in aggregate was prioritized over what made sense in specific moments. This changed how information moved inside institutions. Warnings traveled upward, but slowly. Context was compressed into metrics. Nuance was lost in aggregation. By the time concerns reached decision-makers, they were abstracted enough to feel manageable. The system learned to smooth out irregularities rather than investigate them. Incentives reinforced the behavior. Teams were rewarded for alignment, not dissent. Deviations required explanation. Uniform outcomes signaled control. Over time, internal challenge weakened, not because it was forbidden, but because it was inefficient. Difference created friction. Friction delayed execution. Risk management adapted to this reality. Models emphasized system-level exposure. Local anomalies were treated as noise unless they appeared everywhere at once. Preparedness focused on collective stress, not isolated failure. The system became excellent at absorbing known shocks, while growing blind to early divergence. Markets responded positively. Predictability lowered perceived risk. Investors trusted institutions that behaved consistently across cycles. Stability became associated with coordination. Banks that moved differently were viewed as uncertain rather than cautious. Regulators observed fewer surprises. Reporting looked cleaner. Oversight felt more effective. Uniform behavior simplified supervision. The system appeared disciplined, orderly, and controlled. Few questioned whether this order reduced flexibility. Early distortions appeared subtly. When pressure emerged, reactions were fast but identical. Institutions adjusted exposure in similar ways, at similar times. Liquidity shifted abruptly. What looked like control and calm became synchronization under stress. This was the deeper consequence of the invisible shift. Banks did not lose strength, they lost variation. The system traded independent judgment for coherence. Efficiency replaced adaptability. Alignment replaced resilience. And when every institution reacts the same way, the system becomes stable only as long as conditions remain predictable. The conflict emerges when synchronized systems encounter unpredictable stress. Pressure appears unevenly, but responses are uniform. What could have been contained spreads quickly through identical reactions. Institutions move at once. Exposure is reduced simultaneously. Liquidity is pulled from the same places. Safeguards trigger across the system in unison. The absence of variation turns caution into amplification. Stress travels not because of weakness, but because of similarity. Risk frameworks struggle in this environment. They assume independence where none exists. Models expect diversification to absorb shock, but behavior negates it. The system behaves as a single entity rather than many, concentrating risk through coordination. Markets react sharply. Prices swing as collective action overwhelms depth. Volatility spikes without a single cause. Participants struggle to interpret movements driven by alignment rather than fundamentals. Stability evaporates faster than models predict. Regulators face a complex challenge. Intervention must account for synchronized behavior rather than isolated failure. Tools designed to support individual institutions struggle to address system-wide reflex. Acting too broadly risks reinforcing alignment. Acting too narrowly misses the source of stress. Public confidence weakens quietly. There is no clear villain, no single failure to blame. Yet the system feels fragile. If every institution responds the same way, who provides balance? Trust erodes not through collapse, but through recognition of sameness. This is the heart of the conflict. The invisible shift created a system optimized for coordination, not adaptation. What once reduced risk now amplifies it. Stability depends on diversity of response, not uniformity of process. When difference disappears, resilience follows. And when resilience fades, even small shocks can travel far. The system discovers too late that efficiency and alignment, when taken too far, can become liabilities rather than strengths. The reckoning arrives when the system acknowledges what was lost. Not capital, not regulation, but variation. The ability to respond differently when conditions demand it. In the aftermath, attention shifts inward. Policymakers and institutions begin questioning whether uniformity has gone too far. Oversight evolves to value diversity of approach alongside compliance. Resilience is reframed as the presence of multiple paths, not a single optimized one. Banks adapt unevenly. Some rebuild decentralized judgment. Others introduce friction deliberately, slowing decision-making to preserve context. Risk management regains a human dimension. The system accepts that inconsistency can be a strength under stress. Markets respond gradually. Confidence returns, but it is less absolute. Predictability gives way to robustness. Investors begin valuing institutions that behave differently, not just those that behave efficiently. Stability becomes associated with adaptability rather than coordination. For the public, trust rebuilds cautiously. The system feels less smooth, but more responsive. Fewer assurances are offered. More uncertainty is acknowledged. Banking appears less automated, but more aware. Looking back, the invisible shift inside American banks reveals a crucial lesson. Systems do not fail only from excess risk. They fail when they lose the ability to respond differently. Uniformity feels safe until it is tested. Diversity feels inefficient until it is needed. The future of financial stability depends on restoring that balance, on allowing room for dissent, delay, and difference, on recognizing that resilience emerges not from perfect alignment, but from the freedom to act independently under pressure. Because when every institution moves the same way, stability becomes an illusion. Subscribe to join the journey. The